Hello, how are you? Today, I'm going to talk to you about creatine, which is one of the most widely used supplements in the world. Creatine is usually used by people who want to gain muscle mass, for those seeking hypertrophy, and for those looking for better athletic performance. I'm going to talk to you about this here, but I'll also tell you about other health benefits that many people don't even know it provides. You're going to love this video, so stay until the end because you won't want to miss it. I also want to let you know that in this video, I'll explain how to take creatine and the best ways to use it, because a lot of people still have questions. So stick around until the end, you're going to love it. If you're new here, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel and remember to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss anything. I post new videos every day. You're going to love it. Let's start talking more about creatine. As I mentioned, it's one of the most widely used supplements in the world for those seeking hypertrophy and muscle mass gain. Remember that I have a playlist here on the channel all about supplements for building muscle, where I talk in detail about creatine, other types of amino acids, different kinds of protein, and carbohydrates. I also talk about other supplements that can help with muscle mass gain, and I'll leave the link down below in the description for you. I also have a playlist on supplements to help with fat loss and weight loss, and I'll leave both of these playlists here to help you out. Let me know down below, before we get started, if you had already heard about creatine, if you've ever taken it at any point in your life, and if you actually managed to get good results in terms of muscle mass gain. And if you like this topic of muscle mass gain, like the video so I'll know you enjoyed it, and I'll bring more videos not just about supplements, but also tips to improve your diet and help boost muscle mass gain as well. The first major benefit of creatine is precisely that it helps muscle cells produce more energy. Creatine is closely related to the synthesis of phosphocreatine in our body, which is necessary for the proper production of ATP, that molecule everyone remembers from school, from biochemistry, which is associated with energy in our body. ATP is that final molecule from the Krebs cycle through which we are able to obtain energy, and consuming more creatine will promote this metabolic reaction of energy production, especially in muscle tissue. Creatine is a supplement that stimulates the growth of additional muscle fibers, of more muscle cells. In fact, it is related to increasing the expression of IGF-1, which is a type of hormone similar to insulin that promotes muscle growth. So, if you are looking for more muscle growth, hypertrophy, an increase in the number of muscle cells in your body, it makes perfect sense for you to take creatine. Another interesting detail is that creatine can increase the concentration of fluid, of water, inside the muscle cell, which is known as volumization. So, in addition to increasing the number of muscle cells in our body, it also increases the volume of these cells. They become more hypertrophied by retaining more fluid. This gives that fuller look that many people like. Although it improves intramuscular volume, it won't cause you to retain more water outside the muscle, so it won't make you look bloated, with a puffy face, or with more cellulite. On the contrary, since it actively stimulates the natural production of muscle tissue, it can even significantly speed up metabolism and noticeably reduce that bloated look of the face, of cellulite, that swelling that women so often usually complain about. But from a muscular point of view, it increases swelling, the intramuscular volume, which actually gives that appearance of a stronger muscle. Since it increases the production of ATP, the energy within the muscle, it ends up being widely used by people who do some type of exercise that requires explosive muscular strength in order to achieve this result with its administration. So, since it usually provides significant benefits for muscular work and performance, if you do any kind of intense physical activity or exercise, such as weight training, weightlifting, sprints, or even short duration cycling, then this can be especially advantageous. Any type of exercise where you use creatine phosphate as the preferred energy source instead of glucose will see an improvement in performance when creatine is also administered. Creatine is the dietary supplement in the world that has the greatest impact on lean mass gain, statistically proven through scientific studies. Some studies have even found that when you give creatine to one group and not to another, and both groups do the same training volume with the same attention to diet, the group that used creatine will have a greater gain in muscle tissue, and you start seeing results in just a few weeks. After just 1 week, you can already notice greater muscle volume and can already perceive an increase in the number of muscle fibers. But of course, for you to have a visible result related to hypertrophy, this will also be connected to muscle mass gain, the breaking down of fibers, and their regeneration, which takes more time, just like any hypertrophy work. It's not something that happens overnight, just as weight loss doesn't. These processes in our body, when it comes to muscle building and hypertrophy, can take longer. But if you compare two groups, one using creatine and the other not, the group that uses creatine will always have a greater gain in muscle tissue than the group that doesn't use it. When I say always will have, I mean statistically speaking. Of course, these results always vary from person to person, and studies suggest that people who use creatine, along with strength training guided by a physical education professional and a diet focused on muscle mass gain, will achieve good results in terms of muscle mass increase. Remember that for hypertrophy, you also need a caloric surplus. It's not enough to just take creatine and think it will solve all your dietary needs, or to believe that if you supplement with creatine, you don't need to worry about your diet. That's not true. We need a hypercaloric, high-protein diet, usually with an additional 500 calories per day, for you to achieve significant muscle mass gain. Remember that I have a playlist here on the channel talking about how to gain muscle mass, giving tips on nutrition, not just supplementation, but also lifestyle, diet, and sample meal plans. I'll leave it down below in the description for you. Creatine can also help you improve your blood sugar levels because it will further stimulate the role of muscle growth, and it also increases the activity of GLUT4 receptors, which are insulin independent. So it makes it easier for glucose, for sugar, to be taken up by the muscle without the need for insulin to mediate this transport. Therefore, in an indirect way, it can also help you control your blood sugar. Of course, if you have any kind of health problem, if you are diabetic, pre-diabetic, and want to know whether you should take creatine or not and what the best dose is for you, remember to always talk to your doctor or your nutritionist first. Remember that this video is for informational purposes only. Studies also suggest that creatine may help reduce fatigue and tiredness, whether or not it is related to physical activity. Since it facilitates the production of energy by the muscle cell, it also promotes well-being, reduces fatigue, and improves muscle recovery, which also helps with post-workout tiredness and fatigue. So, if you are one of those people who usually feel very tired after working out, if you just started training and are feeling very exhausted, very worn out, maybe creatine can help you. Studies also suggest that creatine can improve brain function. Our brain also needs energy. It also needs ATP to perform its many daily functions. And creatine can help increase the concentration of ATP in these cells in our brain, in the neurons. So, if you also want to improve your brain function, know that creatine can help you in this regard. In addition, studies suggest that creatine can also increase the amount of dopamine and improve mitochondrial function in our brain. So, once again, it helps to improve the feeling of well-being, it really helps you relax, as incredible as it may seem, and it enhances overall brain function. Studies in adults suggest that creatine can improve brain function, enhance memory, and even prevent some problems related to neurological issues in certain people. Of course, unfortunately, we can't say that it will prevent you from developing some type of dementia or problem in the future, but studies suggest that it can improve overall brain health. When it comes to taking creatine, the ideal is to stick to a dose of 3 to 5 grams per day of creatine monohydrate, and the preferred time to take it is with a meal with carbs and protein. So normally it can be at lunch or dinner or in your post-workout shake, which will be rich in whey protein, for example, or when you eat an egg and carbs after your workout. At these times when you are actually consuming carbs and protein, it's a good idea to add creatine so that it is better absorbed and better utilized. There's no point in just thinking about taking creatine and neglecting protein, carbs, or your total daily caloric intake, thinking that you'll get good muscle gain results, because that's not true. As I mentioned, to gain muscle mass, you need a whole plan, not just with your diet, but also with your training, so you can break down that muscle tissue and allow it to rebuild, which is what actually leads to hypertrophy. So always keep that in mind. Another important detail is to remember that creatine doesn't need to be taken only on the days you do weight training. In fact, the ideal is that you take it daily so that you have creatine circulating in your body and it can be used whenever necessary. Also remember that just because you didn't train that day doesn't mean your muscles aren't regenerating or rebuilding. Usually, we even take a rest day after working a particular muscle group during training so that it can recover and hypertrophy can occur. So, just because you didn't train doesn't mean your muscle isn't recovering and undergoing hypertrophy. That's why creatine is also necessary at this time. So don't just take it on the days you train. It's fine to take it every day. Creatine is generally very safe for people, and many studies have observed groups taking creatine for up to 5 years without any kind of health problems, as long as it is taken in the recommended doses. Ideally, you shouldn't exceed the recommended dose of creatine to try to get better results. Taking more won't improve your results. Using more won't bring you any additional benefits. Now, if you already have any pre-existing issues related to kidney problems or any other health condition, it is always very important that you talk to your doctor or your nutritionist first if you have any health concerns before taking creatine or any other dietary supplement. Always keep that in mind. Many professionals recommend that some people do a creatine loading phase, which usually involves taking 20 to 25 grams of creatine for 5 to 7 days. Then, after that, you go back to the usual amount of 3 to 5 grams per day, as I mentioned before. Some people do this creatine loading phase specifically to concentrate more creatine in the muscle tissue and achieve faster results. This can be done if it is recommended by a trusted professional who knows you personally in your city. Usually, they split this dose into 5 grams, 4 to 5 times a day, totaling 20 to 25 grams for a maximum of 5 to 7 days. After that, you return to the usual dose of 3 to 5 grams per day, depending on your needs. If you have any doubts about whether you should do this creatine loading or not, always talk to the professional you know in your city, who knows you personally. Let me know in the comments below if you had already heard about creatine, if you have used it, and what your results were with creatine. I would love to see your comment. Remember to like the video, as that helps me a lot, and share it with anyone who would enjoy or needs it. Let's work together to expand this chain of good, because that's what I want here with the channel. See you next time. Bye.